Caputus crepitus!
Monday, September 6th. For those who are reading this, which you shouldn't be without my consent since this is meant to be a personal journal, I decided I'll be detailing my adventures and misadventures as a middle school student with a superhero alter ego. I actually thought about typing these journal entries, but then realized that would be a terrible idea for two reasons. First, if my laptop's hard drive dies on me and I fail to back up the files, well, there goes my journal entries. Second, only one Webkinz besides myself knows the secret identity of Plunger. If my parents were to ground me and take my laptop, it'd be only a matter of time before they find out about my hero work. Something I highly doubt they'd approve of.
You could have gotten yourself killed.
Granted, them finding out about my heroics via this journal might also be inevitable, but I find it far more unlikely for them to take this away from me if I were to get in trouble. Surprisingly though, not much has happened in terms of my heroics since January of this year. That's largely been due to many of the serious crimes, as in mass robberies, ravenous lunatics, and the like, being stopped by one of two other heroes. The first is what the news is calling the real-life Ben 10, as he or she is a Webkinz with an Omnitrix of their own. Yep, apparently, that's no longer the thing of just a TV show anymore. I've heard rumors that the living pencil from our town drew it, but that's so far been unproven. The second of these superheroes have been, of all Webkinz, a living Triceratops with powers like super strength and flight. He goes by the name of Spikeplate. Apparently, he survived for some 66 million years in some biological time capsule of sorts. I might have an idea of how that works, but I'll explain that another time. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a tad bit jealous they so far got to wrangle up the big bads of Kinsville, leaving me with scrappy seconds. The closest I got to take on the likes of that TF2 Pyro or Shrek was about 2 months ago when I stopped some delinquents from vandalizing a few houses at night. I'm gonna start my 8th grade school year tomorrow, and I'll be honest, I don't know how I'm gonna keep things balanced between grades and hero work. Tuesday, September 7th. Today was the start of 8th grade for me, and it was boring. By that, I mean it was literally just orientation, getting the syllabi for my classes, and so on. At least I didn't get any actual homework on the first day, which would have really sucked. That, and my best friend, Larry Loxo, share 4 of the 7 classes in our schedules. Oh yeah, that's one other Webkinz who knows Polar Plunger and I are one and the same. That's Larry. We've been good pals ever since we first met in 5th grade. He was sitting alone at lunch one day and was studying biology stuff of some sort while eating, and seemed rather lonely. So I asked what said biology stuff was about, and the rest was, well, history. Hey, what you looking at? Larry wasn't too keen about me becoming a superhero when I first discussed it with him in May of last year, though. I thought it'd be awesome, as I already planned on keeping my identity mostly secret, and that Larry could act as my oracle. But then Larry delivered a lengthy counter-argument. If even one of your enemies learns of your secret identity, they'll stop at nothing to ruin your life. Either that, or they'll tip off said secret to your other enemies, and then they'll all be... I'll be honest, I don't consider myself an idiot in the slightest. I tend to do okay in school, both in terms of grades and behavior. Between the two of us, though, Larry's definitely brainier. Not to mention, he's largely a straight-A student. I eventually did convince Larry to join in, but only if I did my hero work in moderation. Also, I had Larry promise, and I mean promise, not to reveal my big secret to anyone, unless I gave him the green light to do so. Friday, September 10th. Well, school's out for the weekend. I haven't written any new journal entries for the past 2 days since school's been largely what I expected, and I still haven't found any new opportunities for hero work. Even Larry couldn't find any good crimes for Polar Plunger to take care of. Actually, there's been one exception to said boredom, but not in a good way. Earlier today, the students in my English class were assigned a partner project where we had to write a roughly 2,000-word short story with a moral surrounding teamwork. That, and it had to be grounded within the realm of realistic fiction. The problem was how the students were partnered up, because the teacher did himself by pulling names out of a hat. I was keeping my fingers crossed for me to be paired up with Larry. Instead, I was paired up with Clementine Coilioi. For the next pair, we have Nick and Clementine. What? Clementine is relatively new to my school district, only attending Kinsville Middle since last October, but I'm gonna say this right now. She and I have not been on good terms as of late. Alright, I'll admit nothing bad between us really happened over the summer, but it was a very different story during 7th grade. Clementine's an inkling girl, don't ask, with a huge ego, always trying to one-up the other students in classes like phys ed, then often bragging about it, which really made me want to pull my fur out. The partner project isn't due until 2 weeks from today, but I already have a bad feeling about this. Saturday, September 11th. Ever since I started doing hero work, I was always wondering how the hell I got my powers in the first place. When hanging out with Larry at his house today, though, it hit me. Kinda literally.
Nick? What, Larry? Look. What the?
It was the explosion that also created Freezy the Snow Girl and all those snowmen! Man, I should have known that was the case from the start. If that blast of magic can bring a bunch of snowballs to life, then it surely could give someone the ability to fly on a small, loose platform of some sort. I immediately told Larry about this, and he actually agreed with me 100%. So we went back to the park where it all began nearly 2 years ago. No matter how hard we searched, though, we found no signs of fairies, pixies, or the like. So we're going to have to expand the range of our secret investigation over the next few days. Sunday, September 12th. Larry and I continued our search for the fairy that gave me my powers, but still had no luck. Larry and I probably would have spent the day outdoors even if we weren't conducting said search, since Eva had her friends over for hours. Eva is Larry's older sister and is pretty much a valley girl. She's super annoying, and neither of us can stand listening to the hyper-girly gossip amongst her and her friends. I honestly feel like Larry's parents seem to pay more attention to Eva than him, which is another reason I felt bad for and chose to take him under my wing. Although, paw might be the better term to use since I don't have wings like a sweet pea dragonfly or a togo toucan. Thursday, September 16th. Before last night, there really wasn't much to discuss. School was still going on as normal while Larry and I continued our investigation during our free time. However, I have noticed more and more that Clementine has been acting far less obnoxious than before summer break. However, that paled in comparison to what happened less than 24 hours before I wrote this entry. Breaking news! The Blue Pyro has escaped from... The last time I heard about this real-life TF2 Pyro was last November when Spike Play and the cops apprehended him. I guess he got the bright idea, no pun intended, to make his own escape after Shrek broke out a while back. I knew it was a school night, and that there were at least 2 other superheroes out and about, but it has been months since I've done any significant hero work. So, I called up Larry and asked if he was ready to assist me in my mission. To say that he disagreed with me would be an understatement. It's a school night, Nick! Larry ended up winning the argument, as Eva had one of her friends over at the time, and that they might learn of my big secret by overhearing his conversations with me. So I'm going to be on my own this time. I pretended to go to bed early, then waited until Mom and Dad went to bed, then geared up in my pole plunger attire, and flew out my bedroom window as quietly as I could.
Okay, this does not look good here. Freaking unbelievable! Help! There's a little help here!
I finally got back home at roughly 2 a.m. Thankfully, neither of my parents seemed to have realized I was gone for several hours. That being said, I nearly fell asleep at school multiple times today, so I need to either start loading up on caffeine or find some other way to do hero work on school nights without getting sleep deprived. Friday, September 17th. We were reminded in English today that our partner projects are due the following week, and that made me stop cold. Things are still sore between Clementine and me, which has resulted in zero progress being made on our partner project. To make matters worse, the rough draft of our story idea is due Monday. So much for packing my weekend schedule of hero work and marathoning Smash Bros. And if that wasn't bad enough, guess who showed up at the front door soon after school today? It turns out Clementine's legal guardians were all either out of town or busy working that afternoon. Clementine also told my parents about the rough draft being nowhere close to done, then pinned the blame for that on me. A shouting match immediately followed this.
I have changed!
Yeah, right! Things almost got physical when Mom and Dad broke us up. They then sent me up to my room and pretty much banned me from doing anything fun until Clementine and I got a decent chunk of a rough draft done. Clementine, however, was allowed to help herself to some of my snacks and sweets. If my parents were trying to have us get along better, that wasn't helping. Clementine then came into my room some 10 minutes later. Over the next few hours, we were thankfully able to get 2/3 of the rough draft done, but that didn't stop me from trying to burn holes in her head with my eyes during that time. I still don't trust her, even if she's been acting less egocentric this school year. If anything, I feel she's just trying to put on an act. I may have dealt with Wacky Zingaz and Zangaz back in January of this year, but at least neither of them were super egocentric. Just not always the sharpest of knives in the drawer. That, and I could tell they were really nice guys deep down. By the time one of Clementine's guardians came to pick her up, we'd gotten just enough of the rough draft done for Mom and Dad to lift my punishment. I wasn't completely off the hook though, as I said I have to finish the rough draft at her place tomorrow. Even after telling them said draft wasn't due until Monday, they didn't want to hear it. Saturday, September 18th. Dad dropped me off at Clementine's place around noon today. He said he'd be picking me up at 3:30 p.m. and if the rough draft wasn't finished by then, that I'd be grounded for a week. I was pissed, but also knew that arguing with him would have likely gotten me grounded on the spot, so I kept my mouth shut. Things between Clementine and I were even worse than last night because we got into a blowout over how the story was going to end. We ended up writing our own rough drafts, with it basically becoming a contest of who could turn in their version to Mr. Fernandez first on Monday, as we'd written both of our names on each version. Monday, September 20th. Clementine beat me to turn in our rough draft today. I originally thought that wasn't the case when I didn't see her turn it in at the start of English class, but she then told me hers was turned in during homeroom. I wish I thought of that. No, working with her on this assignment hasn't come close to making up for all the crap she pulled on students such as me last school year. What the hell? This is one of my favorite shirts!
You should have seen the look on your face.
Thursday, September 23rd. Neither I nor anyone else has really seen the escaped TF2 Pyro out and about since he got away from me as Polar Plunger nearly a week ago. I thankfully didn't have much homework today, so I took the opportunity to do some patrolling since Mom and Dad wouldn't be home until around 6:30 p.m. I was once again on my own, as Larry was busy working on a project for his workshop class. I soon found the dense smoke being emitted from a parking garage. I legitimately thought I was done for. That was until... Considering Clementine and I were working together over the weekend, there was a decent chance she could see through my disguise, so I flew out of there before she could put 2 and 2 together.
Hey, wait!
After getting home, I spent the rest of the night thinking about what had been happening since school had started back up, and especially what had happened since last Friday. It all led to me having a major epiphany. I hadn't learned from my mistake, and I doomed myself to repeat it! Clementine was putting on no act. She had changed, especially if she saw through my disguise. She risked her life to save mine, largely bailed me out on the partner project, and what did I give her in return? A bunch of rude glares, pointless raging, and not even thanking her for what she did earlier today! Just like with Wacky and Zangaz, I had let my anger and frustration get the better of me. But this was even worse, as it was due to a grudge I should have let go the minute I noticed Clementine's change in behavior earlier this month. At dinner tonight, Mom and Dad noticed me looking uneasy and asked me what was wrong. I explained everything to them while wording it in a way that kept out any mention of my secret hero work. After what happened this past weekend, I was expecting my parents to scold me for not realizing my repeated mistakes sooner, but they surprised me. Mom said she knew exactly what I was going through, as she had trouble letting go of a grudge at roughly my age. Back when Mom was on her high school swim team, one of the team members was a Portuguese water dog named Abigail Yellow. She often got carried away with her swimming to the point where she sometimes got chlorinated water splashed in the eyes of Webkinz swimming behind her, and Mom was one of them. Sploosh. Abigail did apologize for this, but it wasn't enough in Mom's eyes. They also shared the biology class, and when they worked on the partner project for said class 2 weeks later, their final result for submission was originally made by Abigail, but Mom destroyed it out of her held-over grudge the night before said project was due. It was at that moment she realized the error of her ways, and not only did Mom apologize to Abigail, but stayed up all night recreating the project on her own while following Abigail's original design. Thankfully, it all paid off with a good grade for both of them. Right when Mom finished up her story, one of Clementine's legal guardians called and told Dad that the Inkling girl had caught some non-contagious but still serious illness and couldn't finish the final draft of our partner project. I knew what I had to do. Friday, September 24th. All that hard work from last night was worth it, as Clementine and I ended up receiving the highest grade on the partner project in the whole class. Even Larry was shocked. Oh yeah, Clementine was at school today. Turns out that illness wasn't much more than a major stomach ache that went away by this morning. At lunch, I made sure to apologize to Clementine about everything, and that only I was to blame for such a petty grudge. To my shock, she immediately accepted it, explaining how her experiences over the summer and even before then taught her the importance of selflessness, which was what made her far less egocentric. That fight against the blue pyro from yesterday also got me thinking. There's me, Spike Plate, the real-life Ben 10, and now apparently Clementine. Should I tell her my secret? She does seem like a good crime fighter. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of a super awesome team-up. Oh, and that pyro? Turns out he was put back behind bars soon after Clementine and I fought him.